Hey everybody, my name is Lauren and welcome back to my channel. Today I have a treat for you because we are going to start a new series on the channel, and the name of that series is going to be Author Spotlight. And during Author Spotlight, we will highlight different authors that are for and of the culture, mainly urban fiction, give them a little shine and a little light. So, the first person that we are going to spotlight is an author by the name of Takerra Allen. Takerra Allen is one of my favorite authors. She specializes, you hear me? Specializes in urban fiction. She was born in Jersey City, New Jersey, and I cannot find the year. The year is a mystery, but she was born on March the 27th, which makes her an Aries. She's definitely a millennial, though, and if I just had to place her in an age group, I would say mid 30s, possibly even early 40s, and that's just because black don't crack. So, in her 30s, I'm gonna say, and then possibly early 40s, possibly. Anyway, her age doesn't matter. She is an awesome writer. Her first book, Heaven's Hell, was published in 2010, and she has written a total of 17 books. Her books includes a few standalones and several series, usually with one or two books in the series. And those books include Thicker Than Water, which is a trilogy, the Restricted series, and the Lovely Pole series. Both of those were duos series, which is two books. Her novels often have a little bit of everything. They are multi-layered books. You'll have everything from suspense, drama, definitely romance, but she manages to address many real life issues such as mental health, adultery, single parenthood, child abuse, drug abuse, betrayal, family dynamics. She talks about sex workers. She talks about like a little bit of everything. They're multi-layered, and sometimes it's amazing how she can fit so many concepts, things, and ideas into one book, and that they work so well. It's not confusing or like lumpy and bumpy. It's smooth, well done, and well written. And I love that her books are extremely relatable. They do sometimes contain like a lot of opulence and luxury and like glam things. You have a lot of fancy cars, designer labels, and even like an abundance of guns and weapons, which is funny to a degree. But I find myself looking up a lot of the locations that she talks about, a lot of the cars that she may talk about. Sometimes the designer stuff, like, the clothes or the jewelry, most of it I'm familiar with, or it's like I don't have to know because I'm never gonna know. But I do like looking at the cars, and I have even looked at the guns before, because if you take the time to like describe the gun, name the gun, and give me these details, I can already kind of see it in my head. I might as well go and take a look at the real deal, because she can be descriptive and detailed in the writing. So I love that sometimes we do get exposed to, luxurious things that we may not be familiar with. Well, I wasn't or was not always familiar with. And I like that about her writing. So you do get the glitz and glam, the opulence, the luxury, but you also get the nitty gritty. The nitty gritty. Most of her books are based in New York and or New Jersey. I believe it's called like the tri-state area, but it has that northern flair. And when you think about New York, you think about New Jersey, it's like, hard, gritty, cold, concrete, that type of thing. So you get all that glitz and glam in the middle of New York, New Jersey, tri-state area background. And a lot of times her background is interwoven into the story. It becomes like a main character of its own, like a not a main character, a background character all of its own. The city gives character in her books as well. So I like that about her books. It's not too much of anything. It's not just a bunch of stuff that you can't relate to, like exotic cars and trips and things like that. Some of that you can possibly relate to, but you also get like the nitty gritty, the other stuff that is kind of like universally known and things like that. And I like that she interweaves the city into her writing. If somebody was writing a book about my home town and they mention places that I see every day or mention places that I want to go to or have been to before, I like that. I live in a city that I see on TV a lot. I see places that I recognize a lot, and it's supposed to be one city, but I know that it's my city because I know that sign, I know that street, I know that store. I've been there before, and she has that element to her books. Takerra Allen books are usually they always have multiple characters, not just a love interest and not just like two love interests, a best friend and a best friend, that type of thing. It is multi-layered. You got multiple characters, but she does it well. I have read plenty of books with multiple characters and you forget who someone is or the role that is probably major becomes minor, or you don't see them until the end. You see them in the beginning, then you don't see them again to the end, those type of things. Or it becomes overwhelming. When you have too many characters, it can become overwhelming. And I think Takerra does a great job of giving us info, timeline, things like that to all the characters that we are reading about. And it doesn't become overwhelming. It doesn't become complicated or anything like that. She does a great job with that. Now, if you've ever read a Takerra Allen book, you know that her books and her writing is very sexy. Very, very sexy. I call her books urban romance because it's, that love and sex and all that stuff, but the urban setting is gritty, it's hard sometimes. It's awesome, okay? But lots of sex. Lots of sex. If you don't like sex, do not read a Takerra Allen book, okay? But in her books, you have everything from like good old fashioned, just soft and pretty and sweet love making to the very much extreme good old fashioned fucking, the nasty, sloppy, lustful, just fucking, okay? You have a little bit of everything in the books. So there's a lot of sex. It's not a conservative read. It is truly urban fiction, urban romance. You're getting hood drama, okay? So if you are the conservative type, that's not what you're going to get here from any of her books, whether it's talking about, sex or talking about, violence and things that happen. You see, I already brought up guns. So it's not a conservative read, but I think it's on trend for the world that we live in. It's not extreme either. It's not extra. It doesn't seem like it's just doing the absolute most. It seems like it's doing what people do these days and times. So her book is like the creme de la creme of all that. Creme de la creme of the urban fiction, creme de la creme of the urban romances, and the creme de la creme of a good old fashioned hood drama. Takerra, in her books that are sexy, she often gives us these sexy book bays, as we call them. And every one of her books has at least two, sometimes even three, four, five. Five might be pushing it, but even three or four just book bays. Sexy men, sexy bodies, sexy ways, sexy attitudes. They have this finesse and this whatever it is about themselves, and you kind of, not gonna fall in love, but you fall in love with the character and you admire the character. You wish you could meet them in person. You wish there was a person that you can meet and see, and muscles and tallness and fineness and all that stuff. They are, in fact, too good to be true. Too good to be true. She writes them, you hear it, and it's too good to be true. But thankfully, or more realistically, she also includes their flaws. Flaws, flaws, flaws. So some of them look flawless, or they are great to look at, but I have found that she gives her characters flaws, especially these sexy men that we're looking at, well, that we're reading about in the book, things like that. So a lot of them are obviously flawed, and sometimes they're hidden flaws at the exact same time. It can be hard because you look to give us these sexy book bays, they call them TA book bays, but you are like lusting after and admiring your friend's man, because she also writes very relatable female characters that are multifaceted and have a mixture of things going on for themselves, several things going on for themselves. So you're going to get the girl that is smart, that's a lawyer, that goes to college, that's in that workforce. You're going to get the girl that looked up and has like the rich baby daddy. You're going to get the girl that is, going to school, trying to make it better for herself. You also going to get the girl that's a hood girl. You're going to get the girl that's a stripper. You're going to get the girl that's a hustler, selling drugs and doing whatever she got to do to make things happen. The books and the people are multifaceted. You're not going to get just one type of thing, one type of person, one type of read. It's a little bit of everything. And that's what I like about her books. With her books, most of them have a female lead, and you often get a coming of age feel, but it's not like a teen book or anything like that. But they always feel like coming in age or just growth and change as the book goes on. I feel like in most cases, a lot of times, the person that we're initially introduced to has grown, changed, shaped, and molded by the time that we get to the end of the book. Sometimes for the best, sometimes for the worst, sometimes, you know, it was an easy transition. Sometimes it's hard, but you get all of that. And I like that. So those are the things that I like, love, admire about Takerra Allen. But it's the spotlight, and I do have to give like both sides of it. With many of Takerra's books, she does something that you will find in a lot of urban fiction. The female characters call their boyfriends, husbands, partners, they call them daddy. Daddy, daddy, daddy. Y'all, this is weird to me. It's like a pet peeve of mine. I don't understand it, basically. I have not had, I guess you could say, the luxury of calling a guy daddy It has never crossed my mind. It's just not something that happens in my real life. I don't understand how people call a boyfriend daddy if you in fact have a daddy. And some of us have two daddies, a stepdaddy and a daddy, or situations like that. And I'm like, or even a daddy and a father-in-law or something like that. And I'm like, how are we calling everybody daddy? We don't need multiple daddies. We just need our daddy to be daddy. But like I said, it is very common in urban fiction. You can see it on, you know, TV and movies too. It's just weird to me. And it's not distracting or anything. It's a personal pet peeve, but it doesn't stop me from enjoying the books and reading the books and things like that. It's not like, oh, throw the whole book away. They talked about she called a man daddy, throw the whole book away. It's not like that, but it's just a personal pet peeve. It's something that I have noticed and noticed a lot in urban fiction. And it's weird to me. I don't get it. I don't get it. If you get it, or you can maybe help me get it, let me know down in the comments. Explain it to me. It's kind of like also when a father and son have the same name. Somebody gotta be a different name all the time. Cause I think about how do you can't have sex. You can't call out the same name that your child is name. But maybe you don't think about that. But it's like you gotta be David and you gotta be Davy or something like that. DJ. It's gotta be a big difference in what we call y'all like on an everyday basis. Anyway, moving on a little bit. I also mentioned weapons earlier. There is a lot of killing, murder, I would even say torture, like fighting, that sort of thing. There's violence. There is violence in the books. And I would kind of say that that is common in urban fiction as well. They all kind of have a certain certain that comes along with it, but there's a lot of murder and violence in Takerra's books. Um, Sometimes it can be a lot. Sometimes it can seem necessary. It's like, I think you can think of scenarios where, yes, this actually may happen and it may happen that way. But I just have never been in that situation. It doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. It doesn't mean that it's unrealistic. It's just maybe you don't have much experience with it. But it is a factor in most of her books. And one thing that's not really explored enough in urban fiction overall is like the consequences to those actions, the consequences to, taking somebody's life and how that affects the person that does that. I know a lot of times people can be they can offend multiple times. They can do those things multiple times, but it's consequences and you have to live with that. I am sure that people that like get away with it still live with it. And I would assume that it gives you a certain paranoia. If you know how karma works and things like that, I would constantly be worried about like my kid or myself, my family members, and retaliation, things like that. So you get a lot of murder, and in the books, they don't really explore the consequences. I will say, in particular, in one of Sakira's books. It was oh goodness. It was Devout. Devout is the name of the book. Devout has a part 1 and a part 2, if I'm not mistaken. But in that book, she did explore like mental health overall. It wasn't per se in relation to the consequences of like killing each other. I mean, killing people or violence or anything like that. But she did heavily explore mental health and the things that come, the nuances that can come along with mental health, especially in the Black community, especially with Black men. So I definitely recommend that book. I recommend all her books, but that book in particular does touch on and explore mental health. And I think that when we talk about the violence and the killing, that is mental health related as well. So, if this reading things like death and murder and killing and that sort of thing is going to be triggering for you, I don't advise you read her books. It is something that you can't avoid in her books. Yes, if that sort of thing is triggering for you, it may be an issue. And even if discussing mental health is an issue for you, you know, Devout might not be the book for you. There are books about drug abuse, addiction, and recovery, child molestation, things like that. She hits on some triggering topics in the book, and if you are one of those people that can be, triggered by discussing, reading, hearing certain things, then you may want to skip those books or try another author, or maybe get someone who has read it before you to kind of tell you if you should or shouldn't. They may know your personality, know your story, know your struggle, and say, no, this ain't for you. This one ain't for you. Or they might say, give it a try. You know what I'm saying? You just never know. You never know. But moving along back to Takerra herself. She is one of those authors, one of those people that is highly accessible online. She's very active on social media. She has a very active Instagram and Facebook page. I think she has a couple of Facebook pages actually, but she's interactive with her readers, and she will do like countdowns when the book is coming out, do follow up and explanations and things like that. And she's just really interactive, I see her on several people's book clubs and being interviewed, participating. So she is accessible, and she does all this and still manages to give us good content on a fairly regular basis. I think she works at a good pace. It's not a book every month or a book every 5 years. Like, it's not one extreme or the other. It's she's been pretty consistent since she started publishing her books, and I can appreciate that. And I can definitely appreciate her being active on social media and being relatable and very much accessible. I just feel like if I sent her an email or something, that even if it was one of those little generic emails, you might just get an email back. You will at least be acknowledged in some way, form, or fashion. Takerra is also very much like of the culture, and she embraces and incorporates the culture into her writings. You definitely have a lot of musical elements, a lot of musical reference in her books. She is obviously a fan of Prince. She has a book, it is called The Affair at Mud Hill, that is Prince influenced, heavily influenced by Prince. The character is a huge fan of Prince, and he is a part of her everyday life. So, as a reader, it's a part of your everyday reading. You hear or see a little something in every chapter in that book. And that book was published in 2016, and I am looking here. Prince also died in 2016. So, according to Amazon, the book was published on March the 19th, 2016. And Google says that Prince died on April 21st, 2016. That is a big coincidence that the book would be semi dedicated to him, highly centered around him to a degree, and then he passes the next month. Wow. Now that makes the book even more interesting. That's an interesting fact that I really just discovered right here with you guys as I am recording this. But yes, it's obvious to me that music and Prince especially holds a special place in Takerra's heart. So if you are a Prince lover, a music lover, a hip hop lover, you will find those elements in her books as well. So, in her personal life, Takerra is a wife and a mother, and she is still living in New Jersey. She works a 9 to 5, from what I know, what she has shared with us online, but she still manages to write these awesome novels, and we truly appreciate it. She is also a filmmaker, I guess a screenwriter as well too, and producer. We may even be able to add producer, director. She turned her first book, Heaven's Hell, into a movie, and it is available here on YouTube. I will link it down below. Go watch the movie. Read the book, then watch the movie. Or if you're one of those people that can do it, watch the movie, then go get the book, go read the book. But the movie was pretty good. You know, it's an indie film. Don't go into it expecting a Marvel movie or anything like that. But I think it is a good book. And I like that a lot of younger people, younger authors that are in the business are turning their works into movies. They're becoming they're using different platforms, is what I'm trying to say. You know, you can read it, you can listen to it on an Audible, or you can watch the movie, watch the dramatic retelling in a movie form. So I admire that, and I am glad to see growth and change. And that is also another thing I will say about Takerra is that I see the growth and I see change in her writing. Even the earlier books, like you may find a few typos in earlier publications of books, but that has improved over the years. I like the fact that her books are not heavily, they are obviously edited. Somebody takes the time to read and skim through it and make sure that it's not just discombobulated. I like that. And she actually has her own, I believe it's publishing company, which is Angelic Scripts or something like that. I'm gonna look it up and link it down below. But her and I believe her good friend, business partner Sandra, they put a lot of work into her books, a lot of work into her novels, and a lot of work into making sure that the packaging and what we get is better than most. And now I have to piggyback for a minute. I have to piggyback. I talked about the musical elements influencing Takerra's writing. I also mentioned how she's good with the words, making sure her words and books are edited, well put together, that type of thing. I want to say it is a well-known fact. I think it is a well-known fact, but I haven't discussed it in this video. So I'm going to let you guys know, if you don't already know, that Takerra is the half sister to Tupac Shakur. They are half sister and brother. They share the same father. I think, if I'm not mistaken, she has never met her brother, never got a chance to meet her brother. But I think it is safe to say that, writing and having a way with words might run in the family. It would be interesting to know what their other siblings do, or if either of their parents, their father particularly, was also like a wordsmith of sorts. But Takerra is Tupac's younger sister. And I said it's a little known fact, but I think it's a well known fact because that is like the first or second line in a lot of press or anything you read about her. You're not going to get away without hearing that. And I'm sure initially in the beginning of her career that may have opened doors from her, that may have opened doors for her, but I can definitely say that once she got in the door, she proved that she deserved to be there. So I don't think she's like riding a wave. It's not like the whole Kardashian thing or anything like that. She's a very talented woman. Her brother was a talented man, and hey, they both have left their mark as far as I'm concerned. I love some Tupac. My son's birthday is the day after his. And Takerra is one of my favorite authors. One of my favorite. That's why we started early with the Takerra Allen book. And the book that I started with is Thicker Than Water. Thicker Than Water is the first book that I read by Takerra. So I started book reviews and everything with that one in particular because it was the first one that I read. I will say that you do not have to read the books in order as far as like the release date. But if a book has a part one, part two, and part three, it is the best to read them in order. But I think if you randomly didn't have the first book and you just started with the second book, you would still get an absolutely great story. Things would be tied together. You would I wouldn't do that. Don't do that. Unless you just have to. Read like Restricted 1 and 2. Read those in orders. Read Thicker Than Water. The Thicker Than Water trilogy in order 1 through 3. Seasons, another trilogy. Read those books in order because they are a series, but you don't have to read her whole collection in order. I hope that makes sense. So, like Heaven's Hell is her first book, and I did not read that book first. I read Thicker Than Water first. Heaven's Hell, I didn't read for a long time. I think I didn't like the cover. I don't know what it was. It didn't draw me in like that. After reading it, it's still not my favorite. It's not my favorite. It's not even top three, not even top five for her books. She has 17 books total. Heaven's Hell, the very first one, will probably fall in my bottom three. And unfortunately, it falls in the bottom three with her last book that came out, Last Stop from Innocence. That wasn't it for me. It is everything that I said before, multifaceted, many levels and layers. Talks about a sensitive subject, which is like, what was it? Missing black girls, kidnapping. And then it was an estranged relationship with the father. You do see that in the book, but it just wasn't one of my favorite books. The other books I like better. Another element that is common in her books, and unfortunately, is also common, or it's also another factor of her own life. Maybe her life has been reflected in her writing. A lot of the girls or the females in the books don't have mothers or mother figures. So let me see. I know many of them, their mothers have passed. Their mothers aren't with us. Tatum lost both of her parents. The young lady in the last book doesn't have her mother. Her mother passed. The Lonely Pole, her mother passed. Nika, I'm not sure if Nika's mother passed in Devout, but I know she didn't live with her mother. She had a stepmother. She didn't live with her mother, but that's a common thread or common element in her books. And unfortunately, she herself no longer has her mother. Takerra's mother has passed away. I don't know the whole story, so I'm not going to elaborate on it here. But it may be a version of art imitating life because I mean, she's writing to what she understands. So she understands some of the intricacies or whatever that a girl may have if she doesn't have a good relationship with her mother or doesn't have, no longer has, or is able to have a relationship with her because she's not there. So, that is common in her books. And again, if that's something that's triggering for you or that you don't want to, you know, get into, then avoid the books. But I don't recall any situation where somebody just can't function because of it. I don't know. That's not the way she presented like a woe is me situation. It is despite not having this, that, and the other, you know, not having a good relationship with my mother, not having my mother not being here, this, that, and the other. So that is very common through her writing. Again, if that's triggering for you, then you may want to avoid this particular author. But y'all, like I said, Takerra is one of my favorite authors. I feel like she never truly disappoints. It's always more good than anything else. Um, I was trying to think of what is my favorite book. Favorite book. The book that I could relate the most to was An Affair at Mud Hill because the main character is a single mother raising a son with a deadbeat baby daddy. Sad thing to relate to, but I can relate to it. That character was also a pharmacy tech, and I too, in a past life, was and still have my license to be a pharmacy technician. So I can relate to that. That character had a little sister. I have a little sister. And your relationship with your siblings as adults is, different. It can be complicated. It can be even more simplified, but it's something that I know I value as an adult. When you think about your sibling, me and my sister are only 3 years apart. So it's like this is my oldest friend, my oldest playmate. And yeah, it was fights and arguments and disagreements in between, but I just think about us getting older and as people leave the earth and it's like just us as far just us left not left but just us from a certain time period because we both have kids, but just knowing that I can call my sister, hopefully prayerfully call my sister and talk about things that happened when we were young, things that happened when we were at camp. And, it's a discussion versus you telling your great grandkids, back in the day, we did such and such and such, da, da, da. Me and my sister, we're going to talk about how we was on the line wire, how we had to wait on the AOL internet to come up and things that our mama did, that got on our nerves or that was exciting, like going to Mexico and all those things. So, that's how I related to that book. I got off course for a second. Sorry, I got off course, but that's why or how I could really relate to that book. I don't have that love story yet. I told y'all I don't call nobody daddy. I don't call nobody daddy, and I don't think I ever will. But yeah, so I really related to that book. It's one of my favorite. It will be in my top. I'm gonna say top 5. I don't know if I could say top 3. Definitely top 5 though. But what is my favorite one? Let me think. I think if I had to choose a favorite, it would be the Restricted series with Jordan. I like those books. I can relate to those books. Jordan was a thick girl, and we don't get a whole lot of that necessarily in her books. You're not gonna have a whole bunch of BBWs and stuff like that. That's not to say she doesn't have them or she's anti that. It's just not like sometimes it's like a big girl book. They just written. We got 4, 5, 6, however many big girl characters. That's the thing they have in common. Anyway, you don't have a lot of characters like that, but two stand out, and that's Jordan and Yael. But Restricted was my favorite, I think. I'm just gonna claim it right now. If it changes, I'll let y'all know. It was my favorite. It's complicated, and Restricted 2 was one of the most emotional books. And I mean, it pulls on your heartstrings. A lot of her books, but it pulls on your heartstrings. It's like your heart literally hurts. Literally. As if these people are real, as if you know them, as if it's possibly happening to you. It is heart-wrenching, as they say. It really just pulls on your heartstrings. Like, I remember when Proctor died on Power, I felt like I was gonna cry. I thought I was gonna cry. And I'm not the person that's gonna cry with movies and stuff like that, but there have been a couple books of Takerra's especially where I may have shed a little thug tear. Okay, a little thug tear. But one of those books was definitely Restricted. And after the Restricted series, I would say there's power. There's power in that V. There's power in the V. That series, which is 2 books, if I'm not mistaken. But it's about 3 sisters, and their mother is alive. Their father has passed, unfortunately. Another great book, complicated. Lots of backstory, lots of complexities. Things are interwoven. You get the old story, the new story, the everything. I love her writing. So if you don't know where to start, and I don't think you need to go in order, like I said, if you don't know where to start with Restricted, part 1 and 2, and then go read Power That V. Okay, and then just go in ABC order or something like that. They are all good though. They are all good. Matter of fact, start with Thicker Than Water. We've already reviewed it. That's a trilogy. Then Restricted, then Power and V. And I guess if I did a top 3, that's what it would be. First, Restricted. Second, there's Power in that V. And then third, Thicker Than Water. Each series, because all 3 of those books are series. Oh man, so that means Mud Hill would have to be 4. Anyway. Yeah, I could talk about this forever, but I don't want this video to be too long. I like talking about books. I like talking about authors, and I don't want to bore anybody. But if you're here, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you are a fan of Takerra's, or after listening to the video, you plan to check her out. All her information, including the link to the movie, will be down below in the comment section, waiting for you. And hopefully one day Takerra will come on the channel. I'll get to interview her. Maybe you guys can send in questions. That will be an awesome time. I'll get the fangirl a little bit. Y'all can't judge me if that happens. But one day, let's keep hope alive, okay? Let's keep hope alive. Good vibes, good vibes. If you are already a fan of Takerra Allen, let me know your favorite Takerra Allen book down below. Y'all see how I struggled to give y'all my favorite, but let me know your favorite down below. And if you have not previously heard of Takerra, let me know if you plan to go now explore the world of Takerra Allen, the TA book bays, the TA books, all the goodness that comes from Takerra Allen that she shares with us through her books. Let us know if you plan to go read a book today. I hope y'all enjoyed this new series. There will be more authors to come. This is Author Spotlight. And if you enjoyed this video, please like it. Like. And please subscribe to this channel for more. If you have an author that you would like us to highlight, your favorite author, you can also let me know down below. And they could very well be the next one up for us to review. Thank y'all so much for watching the channel. I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope you will come back to get caught up in a book with Lauren in the future. Happy reading, everybody. Bye.